The millennial mayor turned presidential hopeful, Pete Buttigieg, traded in his title, Mayor Pete,
I, Peter Buttigieg,
for Secretary of Transportation. Now, he says, he has his work cut out for him.
There's so much that we have to do right now. First of all, of course, dealing with the impacts of the pandemic, making sure that travelers and workers in the transportation sector are safe. But that's just the beginning.
Secretary Buttigieg, one of the youngest people to ever hold that title, is calling for a generational investment in infrastructure. Every year there are, billion-dollar highway projects as well. Are we rethinking the way that people go to work? After the pandemic, it seems as though people may be staying at home, working remotely more often. Is that investment moving forward going to be a wise use of funds?
It's definitely time to prepare for the future instead of just recycling the ideas of the past. We're always going to need good roads and highways, but the way they're laid out might change quite a bit.
But before addressing future plans, Secretary Buttigieg is responsible for airline, rail, and public transit industries, all currently in crises.
In the context of the pandemic, there have been fewer riders paying those fares, and that's been a huge strain on the system. It's one of the reasons why the president's leadership on the American Recovery or Rescue Package is so urgent.
Buttigieg says passing the COVID relief package will be crucial to helping those industries survive. A large part of President Biden's economic plans hinge on clean energy and zero-emission vehicles. For towns and states whose economies run on the coal, oil, and gas industries, that could mean serious job loss. What role is your office going to have to play in, having that transition and making sure people aren't losing their livelihoods?
Well, this hits home for me literally because I grew up in a city that was home to an automaker, and that automaker was gone by the time I was born, and we were still feeling it. But I believe that there is way more upside than downside in these new technologies, provided that we meet those technologies in a way that supports and is often led by American workers. I believe that American workers are the best positioned in the world to innovate, to create and deliver these new kinds of vehicles.
With the vast challenges of re-innovating an entire sector of the economy, we asked Secretary Buttigieg what about being mayor of a town of 100,000 people makes him qualified for this job.
I'll tell you, when you're a mayor, you are living and breathing infrastructure, and that was certainly true in our city. We're a city in the heart of the industrial Midwest, had a lot of issues with how people get around.
Still, there are some lawmakers on Capitol Hill who have reservations. 13 Republican senators voted against Buttigieg's nomination to the cabinet.
He lacks some experience in that area.
Republican Senator Joni Ernst says she doesn't feel Buttigieg has any expertise when it comes to transportation specifically, although she did vote to confirm him.
I don't feel he has the direct level of experience. I do believe that he has enough experience to be a solid leader.
And as a leader of an important sector of American life, Buttigieg says in the short term, his efforts will be dictated by science.
Mandating masks on transportation that is federally regulated, and really urging folks to wear masks on public transit and any of those other spaces where you're coming close to other people. Look, the way to get our economy back is to beat the pandemic.
And, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a couple of months down the road, maybe a year or so, once we're done with the pandemic, if Secretary Buttigieg isn't a core part of a large infrastructure package. For all the division here in Washington, one thing that seems to have bipartisan support is the idea that we need to fix our crumbling roads and bridges in states all over the country. So we can certainly see some unity there, and that's something that he's expressed interest in, something he says is on his list of priorities. Reporting live tonight in Washington, D.C., Joe Khalil, NewsNation.